People always ask the question, it comes up again and again. Was he a king or was he a thief? Did he create something new, or did he just take what others made and sell it to a bigger audience? It's a heavy question, and it's not a simple one. There's no easy yes or no answer that feels right. The truth is messy. It's tangled up in time, place, and the color of a person's skin. To get close to an answer, you have to look at one song. A specific song from 1955. It was his fifth single for Sun Records. It was raw and wild. It had an energy that felt dangerous. It crackled with a kind of nervous, youthful rebellion. It was the sound of something new being born. But the song itself wasn't entirely new. It had been recorded just a year earlier by a black bluesman. And that's where the trouble starts. That's where the whispers of theft begin. Let's start with the original, the first version. It came out in 1954 on a small label called Excello Records. The man who wrote it and sang it was named Arthur Gunter. Gunter was not a star. He was a blues musician from Nashville. He worked in a factory during the day. He played music in clubs at night. His life was not glamorous. It was a life of hard work and making music when he could. His song was a slow, grinding blues number. It had a swampy feel. The guitar was simple but sharp. His voice was weary. It sounded like a man who had been pushed around and was finally pushing back. The lyrics were a threat, but a tired one. He's talking to a woman. She's leaving him for another man. She might think she's moving up in the world. She might be getting with a man who has more money. But he's warning her, come back home, come back to me, let's just be like kids again. Forget all this adult drama. The feeling of the song is heavy. It's the kind of music you'd hear in a smoky, dark room late at night. It's got a real deep blues ache to it. There's no joy in it. It's a plea mixed with a warning. This was Arthur Gunter's world. This was the sound he made. He recorded it, it was released, and it did okay on the local rhythm and blues charts. It was a solid blues record, and for most songs like that, that's where the story would end. A regional hit for a working musician. But then, a young man in Memphis heard it. This young man was white. He was dirt poor. He grew up in Tupelo, Mississippi in a tiny two-room house. He moved to Memphis and lived in public housing. He was shy, awkward. He drove a truck for a living, but he loved music. He soaked it all up. He listened to country music on the radio, the Grand Ole Opry. He listened to gospel music, both the white quartets and the powerful, emotional music he heard coming from black churches. And he listened to the blues. He would walk down Beale Street in Memphis, the heart of the city's black music scene. He would stand outside the clubs and listen. He couldn't always go in because of segregation, but he could hear, and he absorbed it all. This young man's name was Elvis Presley. By 1955, Elvis was no longer just a truck driver, he was a local phenomenon. He had a recording contract with Sun Records, a small Memphis label run by a man named Sam Phillips. Phillips was a visionary. He was a white man who loved black music. He recorded blues legends like Howlin' Wolf and B.B. King, but Phillips had a famous ambition. He once said, "If I could find a white man who had the Negro sound and the Negro feel, I could make $1 billion." In Elvis, he found him. Elvis, along with his guitarist Scotty Moore and bassist Bill Black, was creating a new sound. It wasn't country, it wasn't blues, it was something in between. It was fast, energetic, and a little bit wild. They called it rockabilly. They had a few regional hits. They were building a reputation, and they were always looking for material. Elvis heard Arthur Gunter's song. We don't know if he heard it on the radio or if Sam Phillips played it for him, but he heard it, and he decided he wanted to record it. So, in February 1955, Elvis, Scotty, and Bill went into Sun Studio. They took Arthur Gunter's slow, grinding blues song and they completely tore it apart. They didn't just cover the song, they reimagined it. They took the raw materials and built something new. The first thing they did was speed it up, dramatically. Gunter's version shuffles, Elvis's version sprints. It's a runaway train. Bill Black's upright bass isn't just keeping time, it's slapping and clicking, providing a frantic, percussive heartbeat. Scotty Moore's guitar is electric and sharp. He plays fills that are clean and biting, a perfect counterpoint to the chaos. And then there's Elvis's voice. He doesn't sound weary like Arthur Gunter. He sounds frantic. He sounds unhinged. He hiccups, he stutters, he snarls, he pleads. His voice jumps from a low growl to a high, boyish yelp. It's the sound of teenage frustration and desire all mixed together. It's not a man tired of being pushed around. It's a young guy on the edge of losing control. They also changed the lyrics. Gunter's song had a line, "You may go to college, you may go to school." Elvis changed it. He sang, You may have a pink Cadillac, but don't you be nobody's fool. This was a brilliant change. The pink Cadillac was a symbol of new money, of rock and roll success. It was modern. It was cool. It grounded the song in the new teenage world that was just beginning to emerge. But the biggest change, the one that truly makes the record iconic, was the intro. The song starts cold. There's a buzzing, distorted guitar sound. Then Elvis starts singing the first line, but he messes it up. He stops. The band stops. You can hear him say, "Hold it, fellas, that don't move me. Let's get real gone for a change." Then the band kicks back in, twice as fast, twice as loud. That false start wasn't planned. It was a mistake. But Sam Phillips, in his genius, kept it on the record. It was a declaration of intent. It was Elvis announcing that the old way wasn't good enough. The slow blues shuffle didn't move him. He needed something more. He needed to get real gone. It was the sound of a revolution starting by accident in a tiny studio. When the record came out, it was a hit. It wasn't a #1 smash across the country, but it was his biggest song yet. It established his sound. It was rock and roll. It was new. It was exciting. And it was dangerous. So did he steal it? This is where the word steal gets complicated. In a legal sense, no. Arthur Gunter was credited as the songwriter. Excella Records was the publisher. When Sun Records released Elvis's version, Gunter and his publisher were supposed to get paid royalties. And they did. Arthur Gunter received checks for the rest of his life because Elvis Presley recorded his song. In fact, the money he made from those royalties was likely far more than he ever would have made from his own version. From a purely financial and legal standpoint, the system worked, more or less. But the question isn't just a legal one, it's a moral one, it's a cultural one. Elvis took a song from a black creator. He transformed it, he made it palatable for a white audience. He had access to radio stations that would never play Arthur Gunter. He had a face that could be put on television when a black face could not. He and Sam Phillips took a piece of black culture and sold it to white America. And in the process, Elvis became a superstar, a king. Arthur Gunter died in 1978, largely unknown outside of dedicated blues fan circles. Yes, he never became a star. He never became a household name. This is the heart of the issue. The system was not fair. It was built on a foundation of racial inequality. Black artists created the blues. They created rhythm and blues. This was their innovation, born from their experience. But they were systematically denied the rewards. They were often paid poorly for their recordings. Their music was segregated into race records charts. They had limited access to mainstream radio and television. Then a white artist like Elvis comes along. He genuinely loved the music. There's no evidence that he was a cynical plagiarist. By all accounts, his passion for blues and gospel was deep and sincere. He wasn't pretending. This was the music that moved him, but his love for the music doesn't change the dynamics of the society he lived in. Because he was white, he could take that music to places its originators never could. He was the acceptable face of a black sound. And what about the lie? The prompt asks if he lied about it. This is another tricky part. The official songwriting credit on Elvis's record was Arthur Gunter, Elvis Presley. Why was Elvis's name added? He didn't write the original song. He changed the arrangement and a few words, but that usually doesn't earn you a writing credit. This was a common and shady practice in the music industry at the time. It was called a cut-in. A powerful artist, manager, or record executive would add their name to the songwriting credits to get a share of the publishing royalties, which was where the real money was. It was a way for the powerful to take a piece of the creator's pie. Elvis's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, was notorious for this. Sam Phillips did it too. It's very likely that Elvis's name was added simply as a business decision, a way to secure more of the profits. Did Elvis himself make this decision? Did he walk into Sam Phillips' office and say, "Put my name on that song"? We don't know. He was young, just 20 years old. He was new to the business. It's more likely that this was a decision made by the people around him, the people who were building his career. But he was complicit, he benefited from it, and by having his name on it, it created the impression that he was a co-creator, which wasn't entirely true. So was it an active lie, or was it just going along with a corrupt system? It's hard to say for sure, but it doesn't look good. The debate also gets into the nature of music itself, especially folk and blues music. In these traditions, songs were not always seen as fixed, copyrighted properties. They were fluid. A bluesman would hear a verse from one singer and use it in his own song. He'd hear a guitar lick and adapt it. Music was a shared language. Ideas were borrowed, changed, and passed on. Arthur Gunter's song itself was built on traditional blues themes and structures. He was part of a long conversation. Elvis, in a way, was continuing that tradition. He heard a song, took it, and made it his own. He added his own style, his own perspective, his own energy. The problem is that he did this at the exact moment when music was becoming a massive industrial business. The old folk process collided with modern capitalism and copyright law, and in that collision, the person with the most power and privilege, in this case, the white performer, was the one who won. You can look at what he did as an act of interpretation. An artist's job is to take the world around them and filter it through their own sensibility. Elvis heard a blues song and filtered it through his own unique mix of country, gospel, and youthful energy. The result was not a copy. It was a new creation. You cannot listen to Arthur Gunter's record and Elvis's record back to back and say they are the same. They share a blueprint, a basic melody and lyrical theme, but the execution, the feeling, the entire spirit of the performance is night and day. Elvis's version has an explosive power that Gunter's simply doesn't. It's the difference between a photograph and a painting of the same landscape. But you can also look at it as an act of appropriation. He took a cultural product from a marginalized community and profited from it in a way the original creator never could. He became the face of a new music that was built on a black foundation. And for decades, the pioneers who laid that foundation were largely ignored by the mainstream. People like Chuck Berry and Little Richard, who were black architects of rock and roll, had to fight for their place in history. People like Arthur Gunter were almost completely forgotten. So where does that leave us? Elvis was not a simple thief. He was a brilliant interpreter. He was a musical genius with an incredible instinct for how to fuse different styles into something new and exciting. His version of the song is, for most people, the definitive one. It's a cornerstone of rock and roll history. He didn't just sing the song, he inhabited it and transformed it, but he was also a white man in a racist society. He was the beneficiary of an unjust system that pushed black artists to the margins. He participated in, or at least benefited from, shady business practices that took credit and money away from the original songwriter. He became a global icon, while the man who wrote the song remained in obscurity. The story is not about good guys and bad guys. It's more complicated than that. It's about a system. It's about a moment in time when American culture was being forged in a crucible of racial tension and musical innovation. Elvis was a catalyst in that process. He was a bridge between black and white music, but it was a bridge that carried far more traffic and far more money in one direction. To say he stole, the song feels too simple. It ignores his own talent and his genuine love for the music. It ignores the fact that he created something new out of the old materials. But to say he was completely innocent feels wrong too. It ignores the deep inequality that defined his success. It ignores the fact that Arthur Gunter's name is a footnote in a story where Elvis is the headline. Perhaps the best way to think about it is this: Elvis Presley didn't steal the song, but he was part of a system that stole the opportunity. He got to play on the main stage, under the bright lights, while the creators of the sound were often left in the shadows. He didn't write the rules, but he won the game. The question of theft will never go away, because the injustice at its core is real. The legacy is tangled. We can celebrate the incredible, world-changing music Elvis made. We can acknowledge his genius as a performer, but we also have to remember where that music came from. We have to remember the names of the people who created the well from which he drank so deeply. We have to remember Arthur Gunter. And we have to remember the song, the one that started as a weary blues threat, and was transformed into a rock and roll explosion. The song, of course, was Baby Let's Play House.